Okay, while I'm weighting bearings, I'm going to put a rosetka, an outlet, right here, and I'm going to jump it off. This is 220, so there's two legs of 110 and a leg of neutral, and it's coming down from here, and I'm jumping off in there, and I'm just going to jump off of this one. Now, let me tell you something. This is my box that feeds the garage. Comes off of this box. And I know you're not going to believe this, kiddies, but if you don't shut these off before you work on those, you'll die. So make sure and shut your breakers off. Before you start doing electrical work, you ought to check with ODB and the Wu-Tang code enforcement folks and make sure that you're able to do this yourself. Sometimes a real electrician has to do this in your house. If you're going to do it yourself, make sure you use a outlet receptacle. Don't just have it hanging somewhere. Notice I've got my 2x4 screwed to the wall, and I'm not going to attach my box just to the drywall. So use the right wire and do it right so you don't catch your house on fire, folks. Okay, I don't know if you can read that, but it says AWG10CU2 CDR with AWG10 ground type. Okay, so the 10 is 10 gauge. I wouldn't do 220 with anything less than 12 gauge. So, of course, as the numbers go up, the wires get thinner. They go lower, they get thicker. I'm going to run 2 strands of this in the sheath. I'm not going to take it out of the sheathing because this has a copper, one copper wire. I need 2 blacks and a white, and I need to keep them. I need to see what they are. Those need to, you need to see it, because your black is your load and your white is your neutral. And when you, it's like when I shut the breakers off, I shut off the load. I shut off both hots. So all there is a neutral there. So, and I gotten into my wiring in my house that was approved by an electrician, and I found some stuff backwards. And you want to know how I found it? I got electrocuted. That's how I found it. And had a light switch outside that was wired backwards. So, and the wire was wrong, the color of the wire. So anyways, I'm going to use this. It has 3 strands. I'm going to use 2 lengths of this so I can have 2 black strands, but I'm going to keep it in the sheathing. So it's going to come out of this one. Oh, excuse me, it's going to come out of this one and go into this one once I get it screwed to the wall. Okay, I got me 2 lengths. They're a little bit bigger than a foot long, maybe 14 inches long. I'm going to strip down the ends, and we're going to get the wires out that we need. Cut off the wires that we don't. There's what you should end up with. I cut the neutral and the ground off of this, and the ground off of this one over here. So I have 2 legs of black, 2 legs of 120, and 1 leg of neutral. Same on the other side. But Dan, you can just use the ground wire as your neutral, and the white one and the black one is this. That's not how I want it. I want both of them black for hot. I want the white one for neutral. And I don't want a bare ground. Well, it's sheathed. No, do it right and you won't get electrocuted. The gauge size tells you how thick the actual copper is. And that's some nice thick copper right there. That'll easily hold 20 amps. So this black over here, this black over here, the neutral right in the center, and we're just going to unscrew those and slide it down in there, screw it back up. It's got a lug terminal. Pretty simple. You got to really watch putting these wires in front of these other wires, because what they'll do is they'll flop out of the way off to one side or the other, and you don't want that. You want that lug pushing right down into that wire, right into the next one. You don't want it flopped off to the side one way or another. You want as much meat under that lug as you can get. We're talking about a heavy load here. 20 amps is a lot of power. Okay, now I got both of my jumpers coming over here, and I've got my hot leg, and my neutral. And yeah, 20 amps is a lot of power. Name another device in your house that runs on 20 amps. No, you can't find one, is it? Most devices in your house, even your window unit air conditioner, might run at about 6 or 7 amps. Maybe. That's a big one. Your refrigerator, probably 3 or 4 amps. Maybe. More likely about 3. Dishwasher, yeah, 3 or 4 amps. All that stuff, all that big amperage in your house, it's for overload protection. And now there might be startup facts, and I'm not an electrician, but I know that they build a lot of safety into these homes for morons that plug 95 things into one outlet. So, like I said, 20 amps, that's a lot of power. It really is. Even though you have a 300 amp fuse panel, you know, that was designed for every plug to be used with a in a Bert and Ernie Sesame Street fashion. If you know what I'm talking about. Maybe you don't. Okay, let's put our rosetka in, or our outlet. No rocket scientist is required here. These are obviously your 110 legs, and this is obviously your neutral, obviously. And if you look on the back, it's not magic, folks. It's very simple. This is your neutral, 110, 110. Notice it doesn't have the strip and push in that your regular outlets have, because this is a heavy-duty outlet. So what we're going to do is we're going to make a little curve on our copper, and we're going to curve it in the fashion that the screw is going to screw. So we're going to curve it clockwise, because that screw is going to screw in clockwise. Clockwise. Yes. Just like that. Now we're going to mount this with the screws that came in those 2 holes and put our switch plate cover on. Then we can put our cover on this. Do you see anything wrong with this? When I put this together, I put my outlets in upside down. This is the reason why. This is how I can tell. That doesn't look right, does it? It's because it's not. It needs to go like this. That's the way it should go. So the ground should go at the bottom. So that answers my question. Ground's at the top or the bottom? Bottom. Well, of course, Brian, I put some urethane in there. What'd you think? I wasn't going to? Okay. I've got all the circuits back on, and there's not fire shooting on the wall, so I think we did it right. Now my plugs plug in the proper way, and this one doesn't cover up that one, that kind of thing. And fan. Yeah, there we go. Got some electricity. A little fan on me. That's nice. Okay. Speaking of urethane, let's look at this. That's nice. That's coming along really nice. It's not going to come out of there, so that's good. I've got another plug. It's going to go on this. Now, I know what you're saying is both of these are straight, and this one's like this. I think they had an old way of doing it like this for the heavy duty, which was the 20 amp, and then they had a 15 amp that went like this. In fact, you can buy a 15 amp outlet that has both, but if you see this, it does have the slots that go both ways, so it's neither here nor there. This plug is going to fit in there. You have one leg of 110 and then a neutral, so you have 220. So let's get putting this on there. Okay, I cut her back, clipped off the ends of those wires so I have some fresh meat to start with. We'll skin those wires. Our green is going to be our neutral. Our white and our black are going to be our hots. That's how this plug is. Okay. Okay, there you go. That's pretty self-explanatory. I mean, you should be able to do one of those. So, good. We've got our electrical source. We've got our plug. Now let's work on our compressor a little more. I thought there was something I could do about these wheels, but there isn't. I think I better just leave them alone. There's two different wheels and they don't fit the axle. They do support it, so I'm going to not mess with that. I'm going to take this off, and I got plugs to fit in those holes, so let's look at that. Okay, this hole here is 5/8, and they don't make plugs that are 5/8. So I had to get a compression fitting that will screw down in there, and then it's kind of an adapter and a NPT 5/8 cap. So I'm going to put some tape around that. It's got a little collar here it's going to hang up on. It's not going to go down any farther, and about 1/8 of an inch here isn't going to be any threads, but we have a 1/2 inch there, so we'll have at least 3/8 of an inch of threads that we're going to catch. That should be just fine. It's blowing out this way anyway, so we should be good. And then this came out of the John Deere box. Ironically, it's not 3/8 and it's not 7/16, but it's 10 millimeter. So John Deere was way ahead of its time, I guess. I don't know. Let's get those in there. I put a little Spintex around there, a little bit of pipe dope along with my tape, and I'm using thick yellow tape, and both of our plugs are in. So let's set the compressor on there so we'll see where we want it, and then we'll just tack it for right now, because we might want to move it. Who knows? We'll let it run a little bit and see what happens, and then we'll weld it up solid if it's where we want it. Okay, I'm almost out of space on this disc, so I'm going to have to cut this short. I'll have to unload this on my computer. I welded up in there just a couple little tacks, just so I can be able to lift it up and scoot it around, and when we start it up it won't come off of here. I think those will probably hold. And same back here, and so I think this ought to work, provided our motor works and that compressor works. Don't know. So okay, there she is, and be able to use the handle and cart it around if you want to. It's a little top heavy, but I think it'll be okay.